5 races into the 2025 season, Josh Berry took the iconic Wood Brothers 21 car to victory lane at Las Vegas. While the victory wasn't as historic due to Harrison Burton finally getting the team's 100th victory at Daytona last year, it was still a significant marker for the team. See, the last time the Wood Brothers parked it in victory lane at a mile and a half was with Morgan Shepherd at Atlanta in 1993. Morgan Shepherd, like Berry and the Wood Brothers, stunned a lot of people at Las Vegas a few years ago in 2019. Morgan Shepherd's number 89 clocked in an impressive 9th place starting spot for qualifying at the Fall of Las Vegas race in the Xfinity Series that year. An impressive feat for a team that hasn't finished a race under power for the entire decade so far. Shepherd was not the one driving the car that day. It was actually Cedar Rapids, Iowa's own Landon Cassill, who was the real focal point of today's story. Cassill's qualifying effort landed the team's sponsorship at the season finale at Homestead that year, allowing the 89 team to run the entirety of the race. Cassill would make the most of this opportunity and finish the race 15th, one lap down. This would mark the only time that the 89 car would finish the race in the top 15 and would finish a race under its own power, period, in the 2010s. Cassill was then dropped by his full-time ride at Starcom Racing at the end of 2019 in favor of Quinn Houff, leaving Cassill without a ride for the 2020 season. He and Shepherd reunited to attempt to run the full season apart from Daytona as it was a last-minute ordeal, and the team couldn't afford the financial hit of traveling to Daytona just to miss the show in a competitive field. The team traveled out to the West Coast to start and park all 3 races. The team planned to finally run the full race at Atlanta before disaster struck. The COVID-19 pandemic shut down the opportunity for the team to run the full race, and the team only showed up for NASCAR's return to competition at Darlington. But that would be the last race Shepherd Racing Ventures would ever run. Cassill didn't run for the rest of 2020, but he returned to full-time action and reunited with Johnny Davis once again, piloting the number 4 for JD Motorsports, a ride that Cassill had driven in the past. While that season went how everyone expected for JD Motorsports, Cassill's trajectory would change starting at Circuit of the Americas. This would mark the start of his partnership with the crypto trading platform Voyager Digital. This partnership was a perfect storm for a few reasons. First, Cassill had actually been a member of the crypto community and had made a connection with the Voyager CEO, which is how the deal came about in the first place. The second would be the massive surge in popularity for crypto in 2021. NASCAR was no stranger to seeing this, as many cars in the Xfinity Series found themselves adoring the colors of many different crypto companies back that year. After the one race at COTA, Voyager opted to back Cassill for the rest of the season starting at Nashville. It was after this that the pairing took themselves to Kaulig Racing, where Cassill signed a 2-year deal with the team. This marked the first time Cassill would be a competitive ride since he drove for Junior Motorsports back in 2008 when he was just 18 years old. While there were a lot of mixed feelings on whether or not the then 33-year-old veteran would perform well, no one could have predicted the roller coaster of a season that transpired. The season started off at Daytona with an okay start as Cassill wound up 14th after getting involved in the big crash in the last lap of the season opener.
That's Austin Hill in the 21. Big crash, up and over. Caution is out.
At Fontana, Cassill posted pictures of his car anomaly Chevrolet with a few fire emojis to his Instagram story, only for it to age extremely poorly just 6 laps into the race.
It's comforting when you're locked into the playoffs, and the problem here for Landon Cassill.
Good stop, get out. Good stop, get out.
That's a pretty big fire. Hopefully he gets out of it.
Window net is down.
There he is.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's a big fire. I wonder what happened, how it went up like that.
You don't usually see a fire that big in our cars, but obviously a lot of fluid. You see underneath the car, it blew up real big.
Oil line or something blew up, or
let's see here. Yeah, he's already on fire right there. I think you're right, Blaine. I think it's an oil line or something.
Yeah.
He was running 11th when he had the issue.
Oh my goodness.
I would say it's been an eventful start, but based on what we saw earlier for you guys in practice and qualifying, this just kind of par for the course, right? I mean, it's been a wild day in Fontana for NASCAR. Caution is out for the first time. Allmendinger, Custer, Bain, Gregson, and Jones, your top 5.
After the last place finish at Fontana, Cassill would rebound at the track he turned heads at 2 years prior at Vegas. finishing off the day 6th. He would continue this momentum, racking up 2 more top 10s with a 9th at Phoenix and a 5th place at the first race on the newly configured Atlanta. Cassill then had a strong run at Circuit of the Americas, looking to have a potential top 10 on his hands before that got derailed by power steering failure in the closing laps, leading to a 31st place finish.
Front row.
Some of those guys in the back fanned out.
You see a car try to go 3 wide in there. Ross drives it in there pretty deep. Everything's looking good. Oh, I just tagged a little bit by the 10 of Landon Cassill, and that's just racing to me. It just seems.
Here comes the audio on the 92.
Sorry, just trying to say how fast you knew Landon smelled the front for the first time ever. Just figured that was going to happen. Eyes up here. I'm sure they're not done ranking.
At Richmond, he would have a middle-of-the-road day, finishing 15th after running up there most of the day. At Martinsville, he would get his career-best runner-up finish after avoiding the Sam Mayer and Ty Gibbs subplot in front of him on the last lap.
54 is still slipping up. Going it clean right now.
Gibbs up the track, no contact this time.
Keep him out there.
He's going to have to run him up.
Use it.
Jones down low, Gibbs up high. Here comes Brandon Jones, first win of the year. Unbelievable.
And we talked about tire prep.
Hell yeah.
The 19 was working his tires really hard before that.
Awesome job.
Absolutely.
Awesome job all day, guys.
He did a good job, and 100% tire preparation. I feel like the 54 just didn't have his stuff ready to go. I mean, slipped up and kind of both ends, opened the door, and Brandon took advantage and took the win.
5th career victory for Brandon Jones.
Cassill would then get a second straight top 5 at Talladega, finishing 5th, and at Dover he had a strong run, finishing in 12th. He continued on this momentum with a 6th place at Darlington and another top 10 on the season at Texas, finishing 10th. Charlotte would mark a stretch of bad luck for Cassill, as mechanical gremlins would rear their ugly heads again for the team and cause him to finish 29th, almost 70 laps down. Cassill looked to be a potential surprise winner at the closing stages of Portland, only to get relegated to 15th due to the absolute shenanigans that take place on late race restarts of the track. At Nashville, Cassill would have an underwhelming day at 18th. A few days later, after running on the same track that his long-term partnership with Voyager started, some uncertainty would arise. On June 27, 2022, a crypto hedge fund named Three Arrows Capital defaulted on their payment to Voyager Digital. This would cause major concern for the company, as the loan that Three Arrows Capital had failed to pay was worth over $670 million. In the midst of all this at Road America, Landon was one of the innocent victims of Noah Gragson's destruction when he
each other off the racetrack. And now Noah, I don't know if he had a mechanical issue or just hung a right in frustration, and that started this massive crash behind them.
Well, look what everybody sees, too. You can't see anything with all that dust.
Yeah, that yellow rear bumper you just saw come in, that's Reddick, you know, and he can't see where he's going. The rest of these cars are just kind of going into the dust, debris, and the smoke. Let's take a look at from this angle right here. You're going to see the 9 go around, the 45 go around. The 45 makes contact. I mentioned the 19. Evasive maneuver, does a wonderful job missing it. Gregson comes in, a huge hit for Myatt Snyder into the 10. And now we see Reddick sitting here and right there. I believe that is. Yes, that's the 68 of Brandon Brown. Nowhere to go. Heavy contact into Reddick.
Cassill then rolled into Atlanta and scored an 8th place finish. 3 days later, Voyager would file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. For those that are unaware of how Chapter 11 bankruptcy works, in layman's terms, the company isn't fully shutting down, but they are having to restructure and come up with a plan to repay their debts. This doesn't mean that Cassill straight up would lose a sponsor, but we wouldn't see Voyager on the car until Daytona at the end of August. In the meantime, Cassill would have a career day at New Hampshire, leading multiple laps and scoring another top 5. Oh, wait, never mind. Cassill would actually fail post-race tech inspection, leading to a disqualification and a last-place finish. Cassill would then have a consistent stretch at Pocono, the Indy Road Course, and Michigan, scoring finishes of 11th, 11th, and 10th. At Watkins Glen, he would finish an unassuming 16th. Cassill would finish 23rd after a late wreck at Daytona, but he would get put on the hot seat for the playoffs as Jeremy Clements would score the victory, moving Cassill onto the bubble. Or maybe not, as Clements would fail post-race tech inspection and get disqualified. At Darlington, Cassill would finish 12th. and he would score a 13th in a rain-shortened Kansas race. At one point in that Kansas race, his teammate AJ Allmendinger did steal some much-needed stage points for Cassill as he was on the bubble still, but wasn't the first car in the cut line, so that shouldn't affect him going into Bristol. Except 3 days before the regular season finale at Bristol, NASCAR would announce that Jeremy Clements and his team won the appeal they filed for the DQ at Daytona, completely negating what teams thought the points situation was for the last 2 weeks. Surely this couldn't backfire and get worse for Cassill, right? Cassill would once again have mechanical issues at Bristol, and after a 35th place finish, he would miss the playoffs. However, this wouldn't cause the team to lose focus. In fact, the 10 team finished the season strong aside from 2 DNFs at Texas and Martinsville due to incident.
Around goes the cars behind them. The 10 got caught up in this.
That's Allmendinger.
Allmendinger in the 16 on the bottom of the racetrack.
Hold on. All right. Get it rolling down the hill. Roll it down the hill.
Brandon Brown, it looks like, in the 68 also involved.
Boy, Brandon Brown was having such a good day. My goodness. There's AJ.
Landon Cassill.
Couldn't quite tell who that was. Was that Brandon that got 2 turns sideways?
Brandon Brown, I believe, was sideways, coming off a 2 and down the backstretch. It was almost in the middle of the backstretch when he went sideways. So AJ Allmendinger from the front, doesn't look like a lot of damage.
And we talked about those willingness to get stage points, but then having to start toward the back end of the pack. Although he'd worked himself up pretty good, still behind some cars. They may not have been behind if they hadn't been trying to get those stage points early in the race. Let's see what happens.
He goes up a little bit. Just.
Yeah, Brandon Brown and.
Is that AJ?
Yeah, AJ. Yep. Just, you know, Brown was trying to fill that spot.
Oh, the 10, Landon Cassill with a right front issue into turn 3 up against the wall. The caution's out.
Caution comes out, and
looks like a failure.
The right front leaning in way too much, Steve.
Wheel hop.
Oh, wheel hop. Talking about wheel hop.
Teammate did the same thing in practice yesterday. Wheel hopped and got in the wall.
Yeah, great point, right? The 11 was wrecked in practice.
He's broken the right front suspension, which I thought the right front suspension broke, because watch this car. Straight up the racetrack. But it is sliding the rears and hopping around a little bit. But
so interesting, because yesterday in practice when that problem happened, Daniel Hemrick said this has been an ongoing issue with these teams, wheel hop.
Yeah.
Well, you remember, this is a teammate to AJ Allmendinger, right? So AJ's very frustrated with his car. We haven't got that comment about wheel hop, but to your point, Jeff, it was the 11 of Hemrick in practice. Now the 10 of Cassill in the race. We don't know if that's what AJ is fighting, but that organization has had accidents with 2 of their cars over the course of the weekend.
And how could that happen over a course of a long run? Well, the fronts get hot and they give up. The brakes give up on the front end of the car, and the rears continue to work and perform well, and what happens is you start to hammer the brake pedal getting down the corner, and the rears start to hop and lock up, literally locking up the rear tires and bouncing across the racetrack.
And you're always having, I always did throughout the run, always changing the brake bias, just continually changing it, and then when the caution comes out, put it back to where you started the run.
Well, the decision
at the Roval, Vegas, and Homestead, Cassill would score finishes of 10th, 11th, and 12th. The 2 highlights to end the season would be a 3rd place finish where Cassill scored after pushing his Kaulig teammate AJ Allmendinger to the win.
Honestly, all credit to Landon Cassill. He kept shoving me. He stuck with me. That's what's great about Kaulig Racing. When you got teammates like Landon and Daniel that you know no matter where you go, they're going to go with you. Makes it a little bit easier. So Landon, I wish he could share. He's going to share it with me, but I wish we could both be the winner because he deserves it more than I do. So thank you, Landon. Everybody at Action Industries finally got that thing into victory lane.
And he had a strong 4th place effort at Phoenix, being the highest finishing non-championship Ford driver. Hopefully some good momentum to build on for Cassill for 2023, as he still had a year left on his contract and Voyager's financial woes were out of the picture. Except on December 19th, 2022, Binance, another crypto exchange platform, announced a bid to buy out Voyager Digital. This buyout call resulted in Cassill losing his in with the company, as the CEO he had a relationship with would no longer be in charge. Then, on January 18th, 2023, Cassill announced on Twitter that he would not return to the Kaulig Racing 10 car. 2022 would be the last season we would see Cassill on track. As of the recording of this video in 2025, he is yet to return to any of NASCAR's top 3 series. While many have scrutinized Cassill for missing the playoffs with a Kaulig car that season, it's hard to put most of the blame on the driver considering all the poor luck the team had with mechanical failures in the DQ at New Hampshire. If you take any of those finishes away, he probably makes the playoff field. You could also point to NASCAR taking 2 weeks to finish the appeal for Clemence's win, and also make a case for Cassill being wronged there as well. There is one undisputable fact that people can bring up with Cassill in the 10, however. He didn't win. Jeb Burton was able to score a win with the same 10 team at Talladega the year prior. In 2023, the same season that Cassill announced his departure from Kaulig, Jeb Burton would find victory lane again at Talladega, this time with Jordan Anderson Racing. The same year that Cassill and Voyager united in 2021 was the first year Jordan Anderson Racing started running in the Xfinity Series. That journey, however, for Jordan Anderson Racing had a rough start, and it also started the decline of another underdog team in the process. If you flip Jordan Anderson Racing's 31 around, you'd have the number of the team in question. That story will be the talking point of my next video.
Coming to the start-finish line.
Watch that 48 in the outside lane.
Watch the 2.
Here they come, back through the tri-oval. Garrett Smithley is spinning. They're racing back to the checkers. Will the caution come out? At the line, it's Jeb Burton. And the caution is waving. Jeb Burton with his second career win at Talladega, and it's the first for Jordan Anderson Racing.